Good morning.
Good morning.
So it's very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
And I know that we have not really spent a whole lot of time together. So I've printed out an agenda and I wanted to kind of go through that with you. Coaching is new to both of us, so definitely something that I wanted to discuss, and so we can talk about what it is and how it works and all of those pieces. And then I know that I asked you ahead of time to kind of think a little bit about what you might want some support with, and so we'll come up with some goals.
Okay.
So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the difference between coaching and management. So tell me what you think coaching should be or what it should look like.
I guess I see coaching as more of a non-administrative thing, more of like a support piece, and then management as more of the administrative piece of, supporting a school.
And that is exactly what coaching is, so I'm glad that you kind of have that idea. And I know that you've been doing some coaching of teachers, so you have a good feeling around that. So the way that I would hope that our coaching sessions go is that they're collaborative. I expect to learn as much from you as you learn from me. I would hope that we build mutual trust. You need to know that whatever we talk about or do, it's confidential, and so I'm not going to be talking to your boss or anyone else about that. Certainly, I want us to be able to try some things, and if they don't work, that's okay. We'll learn from those. So that collaboration piece is huge. I also want us to kind of establish that the coaching piece is more instructional. So what I want you to be able to do is to really focus on the instruction with the teachers that you're coaching, and to help them become better at what they do. And that doesn't necessarily, they're not always really open to that, and so we might have to talk about that a little bit too, and how to handle that piece. But I want this to be a really good, trusting, collaborative relationship. And so is there anything you would like to see from the coaching piece? What do you want in a coach? What would you like from me?
Not that I can think of right off the top of my head right now.
Okay.
I'm sure something will come.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so I wanted to tell you a little bit about my background and my skills, and then I definitely want to hear about your background and your skills, because I think in order for us to have a good coaching relationship, you have to know where my expertise lies, and I have to be a good fit to be your coach. I definitely don't want to try to coach you in something that I don't know anything about. But there are going to be some areas that we run into that I'm sure we're going to have to find some resources and that kind of thing, and that's good. And that's when I talked about learning from you as well. That's part of the piece. You have areas of expertise that I'm sure I don't, and so I'll learn from you too. And then we'll also, probably look at some articles and that kind of thing to help us and to support what we're trying to learn. So my background is pretty much lies in the special education area. I started out as a special education teacher. I've pretty much taught every kind of special ed classroom that you can think of, so I have a lot of experience with collaborating, working with a partner in a classroom, working with general ed, the blended model. I've taught self-contained. I've taught kids that have come back from other kinds of placements, residential, that kind of thing. So I have a lot of experience in that area. So I know that some of the teachers you're coaching are special education teachers, and that even the ones that aren't have special education students in their room, and a lot of times you're coaching them around those special education issues. And so I do have a lot of expertise in that area, and I can really help with that. I also know that you do work on an assessment team, and you coach sometimes in that realm as well, and so I can help with those pieces too, because I have, like I said, a lot of background in special ed. I was also a special education director in New York, so I had preschool through 12th grade, so I do have kind of like a long range picture of how that works as well. So I can help with the transition piece to kindergarten, all of those pieces if you're having any issues there. And then I also was, in my role as a special education director, responsible for the instruction for all of our students with special needs. So, and I did help determine the curriculum and all those pieces, so I can help with that as well. I have a good picture and solid knowledge of the standards and how those work. And so, if you're having issues in that area. The other thing that is really, really important about coaching is those leadership skills. And, I know that you've, been working on that and have developed some of those and are still working on those. And, we can always improve as leaders. So certainly at this higher level of coaching, I want to talk to you about helping your teachers learn those leadership skills and really encouraging those, as well as making yours improve and become more of what you want them to be. So that's a little bit about me. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your background? And first of all, do you have any questions about my background at all? Okay, good. And please, if you have any questions, just ask.
Okay.
Tell me a little bit about your background and where you feel like your strengths lie, and we'll go on from there.
I have taught kindergarten through 2nd grade in a general education classroom, and then started teaching preschool and taught preschool for 3 years, and then moved into this sort of coaching role, and I've been in this role for a while now. I would say my strengths are relationship based usually, developing relationships with teachers. And I think, growing my own leadership skills is my number one focus usually. Is like, how can I empower other teachers to feel like they are leaders as well, while also building my own leadership skills. Most of the issues I deal with are related to behavior, mostly EC students. And on assessment team, a lot of questions around placement for kids, like what would be the right placement for this student given all the needs, these needs and these strengths, what's going to be the best placement. That's me.
Okay. So it sounds like you do a lot with students with disabilities, but you don't have a strong background in that.
Right.
And so that is really helpful because I do have a strong background.
Right.
So that's a really good area that we can collaborate in. I want to kind of, because we can't look at everything, even though we would really like to do that. I want to talk a little bit about what your goals might be. I know you mentioned, you're working on your leadership skills. So talk a little bit about that. Tell me what you've kind of developed already, what, you see as future plans, what you might want to target, that kind of thing.
I think in this role, I've really grown a lot as far as like learning how to manage conflict. Conflict is not anything that I enjoy. Every time there is conflict, it makes me, have to take a deep breath. And so I think that is something that I am working on as far as like when there's conflict between two adults, and helping coach people through those conflicts.
So what have you learned so far about conflict?
That you can't solve every problem for everyone. That you have to sort of help them work through it, but that you're not going to be able to solve it for them. And
so you're helping them develop their leadership skills,
right.
Because you are helping them learn the tools to work through the problem solving.
Right. What was the other part of the question?
Well, and just what have you learned so far, and what do you see as working on in the future? What might you want to improve upon, keep working on, that kind of thing?
Just continuing to help teachers come to understanding. So like not telling it to them, like helping them to develop understandings and helping them to sort of know which avenues to take to answer their own questions, sort of helping them understand that they have the capabilities and that they don't,
Okay.
have to ask me every question.
And so what strategies have you been using to do that? How would you approach a situation where you have two people in conflict? For example, a teacher and an instructional assistant that are disagreeing on something. How would you approach that?
I mean, I think I would probably, it sort of depends on what it is, I guess. I mean, if they're disagreeing about, I'm trying to think of a scenario that I've had recently.
Let's say that they disagree about the way the teacher's instructing a particular student.
Yeah. Usually I work with the teacher. I help the teacher understand, you know, maybe where the IA is coming from, and then sort of help them come up with a plan for going forward. So sort of like, you know, your IA has some really great ideas too. Are you including them in the planning? You know, how can you guys collaborate so that everyone feels like their ideas are heard, but also with the understanding that at the end of the day, the teacher is the leader in that classroom, and that, you know, she has the experience and the knowledge that it takes to be the leader in that classroom, and, you know, understanding that she is the buck stops with her.
So that's great. So tell me what that would look like. Would you sit down with the teacher and just have a conversation? Would you bring the IA in? Would you sit with both of them? How would you like approach that?
I would probably talk with the teacher by herself first.
Okay.
So sort of my role is supporting the teacher and the other people in the classroom, but as the leader in that classroom, I would probably start with the teacher. And then if necessary, yeah, I would definitely bring the IA in and talk with them about it too. And I might even talk to the leader in that building, the principal in that building, and make them aware of sort of where they are and what their plan is going forward. I think it's important for the administrator in that building to be aware of, you know, maybe some work that I've done in that classroom so that they can continue to support that when I'm not there.
Okay. So it sounds like you already have some really good skills in the area, and, you know, we can certainly build on those. What would you like to see going forward as far as building, you know, leadership skills for yourself? I know that you've probably done some self-reflection and thought about different situations and how they went and what you might have done differently, or, you know, what you want to learn from those situations. We all have those. So what might you want to target moving forward? And what's your ambition as a leader? What do you want to do? Do you want to stay a coach? Do you want to move on? What do you want to do?
Honestly, I have no idea. I don't know. I really like the coaching role. It's ever evolving in this department. You know, I feel like I'm always doing something different and learning something new. I think the more experience I have working with teachers and teams and conflict, and, you know, as a leader on our assessment team too, as an LEA, I learn something new every time, you know, we come to a decision. I don't know what I want to do.
And that's okay.
I feel comfortable where I am right now, and I feel challenged every day, so I don't really feel I feel good where I am. I don't know that I ever want to be an administrator. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, especially given my station in life.
Well, and that, you know, that is really fair to say, knowing that being a building administrator, especially if you go into being a principal or an assistant principal, that's a huge time commitment. It's a lot of work, and, you know, there's evening events and all kinds of things that happen. And I know you have small children, and, you know, at this stage in your life, it's probably not a good fit for you. But someday it might be. And just know that whatever coaching skills you are learning now, and leadership skills that you're really sharpening and improving, those things are all needed in any type of administrative position. So no matter what position you go into, if you decide to move on, you might decide to coach forever. I mean, and that's okay. If that's, you know, comfortable and enjoyable, that's what you want to do, then, you know, that's fine. But if you do decide to move on, even as a principal, you will be a coach for your teachers. You know, as an AP, you're going to be a coach for your teachers and for your parents and for your students. So all of the skills you're learning will be valuable, you know, no matter what you do, and especially in the role you're in now, they will definitely be valuable. So thinking about a situation where, you know, you've reflected and you've kind of been like, maybe that could have gone a little differently, or, you know, maybe it went well, but you'd like to do it a little differently. What kind of skills might you want to work on while we're together?
I think strengthening my knowledge base as far as, like, when I think about you know, being a leader on a team or on an assessment team is sort of where I'm thinking right this very moment. Just strengthening my knowledge about processes and procedures so that I can support other teachers and other good decision making. I feel like I ask a lot of questions, and sometimes I wish that I just had the knowledge in my own head and I didn't have to ask all the time. So maybe just building knowledge base so that I also can, when there is a conflict that arises, I can adequately, you know, articulate why we made a decision that we made. Just, you know, building my own confidence with processes and procedures.
Okay. So, I mean, I hear a couple things in there. I hear some, you know, procedure and policy knowledge that you would like to gain, and we certainly can work on that piece. The other piece that I kind of hear, and you tell me what you're thinking about this, is, you know, there's an art to LEAing an IEP meeting, and really knowing how to handle some of those conflicts. And one of the things that I often tell people is that you don't have to know everything, and there's no way you can know everything, because some of the situations that come up are really different, and you're like, whoa, I don't know what that is, or I've never heard of that. So there are ways to deal with those kind of conflicts without actually knowing exactly what to do at that time, but to be able to handle it in a way where people still feel confident, they know that you're going to get that information for them, or that they can trust what you say and believe what you do, you know, what you're doing. So we can work on some of those leadership skills as well, you know, but knowing up front that you don't have to have every answer. You do need to have a solid background, and so, you know, that piece we'll work on, and certainly I can definitely help with that. But the other piece is really how to bring the team to consensus, leading that team, you know, through some of those conflicts, and really kind of listening and hearing what parents have to say and what other people have to say. Because I can tell you, I've been in many, many meetings where there's one person, you know, whether it's a parent or a teacher or a speech therapist or whoever it is, who is vehemently disagreeing with everything that, you know, is going on. And how do you bring that around so that, you know, letting them know it's okay to disagree, but to do it in a professional way where you can still all come to consensus, or at least agree to disagree.
Right.
You know, that's an art, and it's a skill, and it takes lots of practice and, you know, modeling and that kind of thing. So, you know, we can certainly address that piece. I think that is a really good goal. Anything else leadership-wise that doesn't have to deal with conflict, maybe around instruction or working with your teachers? You know, do you find when you're coaching teachers, I know you said one of your strengths was relationship building, and I can see that. You know, I definitely think that is a strength for you.
I think a lot of what I get called in to do is sometimes instructional based, but mostly behaviorally based, which that is instruction too, you know. Right. But I feel like, you know, I would really like to be able to spend more time coaching teachers in appropriate instruction, and, you know, what should this look like, and how can you meet the needs of all these learners in here. And a lot of times what our teachers get focused on is that one behavior, that one child. How can I fix this so that I can teach the rest of the kids, instead of sort of seeing how we can do all that at the same time.
Okay, so it sounds to me like, and tell me if this is not what you're saying, but I'm just kind of rephrasing what I'm hearing you say, that it's the structure in the classroom that is really the focus, because that's what's causing the behavior.
Right.
So the teacher, somehow you've got to move the teacher from focusing on this one child and that behavior to
the bigger picture.
Right, the bigger picture of them reflecting on their instruction.
Right.
And looking at all of the pieces that are going into the lesson, which may or may not be engaging this child and causing them to have, that's a biggie.
It's sort of, a lot of our teachers don't understand, like, the building the foundational bottom of the pyramid in your classroom. Like, they don't understand that the routines and the procedures are so important, and then they get bogged down in this one thing, this one behavior, when a lot of that would go away if they would go back and really reflect on the structure in their classroom. And I do a lot of assistance with trying to help, you know, build a schedule and build routines, but part of the frustration I have a lot of times is like there's not a lot of carryover. So like I'll help them develop all these plans, and then I come back and they're like, oh, that didn't work. I'm like, well, how long did you try it for? You know, and I'm sure that's any administrator coach runs into those same exact problems. I think sort of just working through those.
Okay.
Is a goal of mine to really increase carryover, to be able to be intentional with specific teachers more often too. Like I feel like a lot of times I'm just popping in instead of being able to really build a relationship with that teacher and help them to see why this is important.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think you often feel it just like you're popping in, or what causes that for you? I mean, I know that you have
there's a lot of classes,
a lot of
needs. I feel pulled in a lot of directions, which is just sort of which is why I love this job, and why also sometimes it's frustrating, is because I feel like I get to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. Like I don't ever really get to like say, I want to spend 5 full days in this classroom with this teacher and really like help them. I don't really ever get to do that. It's, you know, and I think that's how we would, you know, see the most changes if we could spend more time. But, you know.
So it sounds like maybe a couple of things that we could look at are prioritizing, you know, your scheduling, and really looking at, you know, I know you have a ton of classrooms, so maybe just picking 2 or 3 that you feel have the most need right now, and really focusing on them to do an in-depth job with helping them see the big picture and helping them really focus on the structure and instruction in their classroom. You know, and that is an instructional goal, and that is, you know, we talked a little earlier about coaching and what coaching looks like. And, you know, one of the things we want to focus on is some of your leadership areas, strengths that you want to build on, but also working with others. And so tell me if these are some goals that you want to target, but it sounds to me like we could target maybe some prioritizing. We could also target, you know what, let me grab my pen because I want to write this down before I forget, because, you know, I'm getting older and that doesn't happen too often anymore. Okay, so prioritizing of, you know, who's going to get more attention, maybe front loading some of that attention for teachers, and then also working on the structure in the classroom and how to help teachers with building their structure so that they're not seeing so many behavioral problems. And then the other thing I think you mentioned was you wanted to work on your special ed knowledge, and then some of those leadership kind of behaviors leading the team, especially during conflict, because you said that was one of the areas that you had some issues with. Do those sound like things that we might be able to accomplish together this year?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Actually, I think you probably just wrote your PDP for next year. I think these are all great goals, and I can tell that you've done a lot of reflection around your job and your skills and your leadership skills, and you know, they've increased tremendously. You know, and I like the piece that you can target really specific things now. Building the structure for teachers is definitely instructional. Prioritizing your attention is definitely growing your leadership skills, and then your special ed knowledge is definitely growing your leadership skills, as well as instructional, because you'll be able to use that goal with the team as well to help them build their special ed knowledge. And then, you know, your leadership behaviors for building the team. You're also going to be coaching the team to learn how to problem solve and how to work with each other, and building that culture. So I think those are all really important goals. Do you have any questions about what we're going to do together, how it's going to work, anything like that?
Will we have set meetings?
Yes. We will have set times when we actually sit down and talk and do some reflection and look at the goals and see how we're progressing and that kind of thing. But there'll also be lots of times when I come in to model something, or I've sent you something that we need to talk about, or we're just going through some instructional information, that kind of thing. So yes, we will have set meetings. I'll also come out on some of your coaching visits, because I want to kind of see it in action and maybe model some things, and also
And give me some feedback.
give you feedback, right? And then a really important piece is that I'm also going to ask you for some feedback after our coaching sessions are over, so I can grow my coaching skills as well.
Okay.
So at the end, I'll just ask you to write up a couple of paragraphs to give me, some feedback on what you really liked, what I might be able to improve, things that you felt like we did or didn't target, that kind of thing. So a little homework for you, but that will be after our next coaching session. Well,
Okay.
at our end of the session videos. Any other questions?
I don't think so.
Okay. What about next steps? What would you envision the next steps to be for us?
It would be great if I could find some sort of professional development just in special education policy and procedure.
Okay. I can certainly look and find something for you. The other thing that might be really helpful is to maybe spend some time in a special education classroom and actually maybe with a facilitator might be a really good fit for you to kind of see what they do. We'll pick somebody really, really good at focusing the team and that kind of thing, and maybe let you do some shadowing.
Okay.
That should be really good. And then, like I said, I would like to come in and maybe do some observation of an IEP meeting with you, and then perhaps have you come observe as ILEA a meeting, so
Okay.
that you can kind of see some of that in action too. I'll try to pick something where there's some conflict. So, not that we ever have that in any of our meetings, but definitely that would be, I think, helpful for you. And then, like I said, we will get together and talk about progress. How often would you like us to meet? What is comfortable for you? I mean, I certainly, like you talked about coaching out in schools, I certainly want it to be frequent enough that you feel like you're being supported.
Does
and
it
that
need to
we're
be
really...
face to face, or can it be?
No, it could be virtual, it could be on the phone, it could be whatever you want
Every
it to
other
be.
week.
Every other week? Okay.
Yeah.
Why don't we pick a time and a date, and of course we can be flexible. I know life happens, but we can pick a time and a date that works, that we can kind of put on the calendar as, this is a time when we work together. Now, that doesn't mean that if, for example, at that time, or that week you have a meeting coming up that you'd like me to observe, or that kind of thing, that we can't morph it into that week, so but at least if we have something on the books, we'll know that we have a time that we're going to be able to talk and to do that. Well, I do want to do a lot of modeling, and I do want to be there with you for lots of different things. I also think we need that quiet kind of away time so that we can reflect and have conversations that other people aren't privy to, where we can kind of talk through what went well or what didn't go well, or what our next steps are, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So it would be good, I think, to have that on the books for us. Okay? Any other questions, concerns?
I don't think so. Maybe later. I can always email you.
Yeah, definitely. You have all my contact information. We talked a little bit about prioritizing attention to your teachers. I also want to do that in coaching. So, know that you are one of my priorities, and I definitely am not going to take on so many coaching people that I can't give you the attention that you need. I want to make sure that we are growing skills and instruction. And if for some reason, during our reflections that we're feeling like a goal is not working, or my suspicion is that we may refine some of these goals as we go on. You know, that's fine. It's really fluid. It's your opportunity to grow your skills. I'm only here to kind of help that out. So, you know, make sure that I want us to be open and honest with each other and to trust each other. And I want you to feel comfortable to come to me and say, you know, this is not working, or this piece is working, but this piece isn't, that kind of thing. So, you know, I know it's going to take a little bit to build that trust, and that's okay. But I want you to know that I'm really open to feedback too, and I'm not going to, you know, cry or fall apart if, you know, you give me feedback. But I also want it to be, you know, useful to you. I don't want to waste your time or waste my time. So definitely let me know, and we'll take it from there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write up your goals, so that we kind of have them in writing. Again, because I don't, you know, I'll probably not remember exactly what we talked about without putting it down in writing. So I will do that. I will send it to you. Look it over. If you want to wordsmith or tweak it, or you think that it's not exactly what we talked about, you know, let me know, and we can kind of fix that. Because I want us to kind of have a plan for how we're going to work on things. I also want to think about what might be, and you can tell me this now or you can think about it, but what might be the one that you want to work on first or prioritize. You know, I know that you kind of have a dual role. You coach teachers, you also coach on the assessment team, and you've kind of split those goals up a little bit because we've targeted the structure in the building with the teachers and prioritizing the attention that you spend with them, but you've also talked about building your special ed knowledge and your leadership behavior for team. I think that we should pick one kind of area to start with and then maybe move into the other area. And I think all of these goals will kind of tie in together, so the skills that you use for one, you'll use for another one anyways. But is there one that is kind of needing more attention quickly than the other, or?
I'd like to think about it.
Okay.
Because, you know, I think they all sort of do tie in, but I think I could probably pick one that needed the most attention.
Okay, well, after I write them up, you can think about it. We can talk about it at our next session, or, you know, you can shoot me an email or whatever you want to do. And then I will, in the meantime, look for some professional development around the special ed. I'll try to set up some shadowing opportunities. I will come to one of your IEP meetings. Perhaps I'll have a meeting that is good for you to attend. So I'll try to fix that, and then we'll pick a date that we can put on our calendar. So those will be our next steps.
Sounds great.
All right. Well, I so enjoyed talking with you, and I think this is going to be really great. I'm going to learn a lot from you as well. And so I'm looking forward to it.
Great.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah,